December 8th is our 75th birthday, and you could win $800. Text the word birthday and your full name now to 514-800. Details at cjad800.com.
Let's turn our attention to a very interesting legal question. Earlier this year in Quebec, there was a second wave of the Me Too movement, many women taking to social media to denounce men that they say were they were victims of sexual assault. And one man named on one of these anonymous Facebook pages, the Facebook page was called Dis Son Nom, has gone to court against the organizers of the Facebook page. He wants to remain anonymous, but a Quebec court has ruled that if he wants to go through with his lawsuit, he has to divulge his name. With more on this, let's go to Ari Goldkind, criminal lawyer and legal expert. Ari, always great to have you on the show.
Great to be on with you, Elias.
I can't imagine a sort of a story here that's got more different facets, where you've got anonymous accusations, you've got people that are being accused that want to go to court, they want to remain anonymous. This must be a very tricky legal situation, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this story.
Well, it really depends on sort of your politics of the day, Elias, because this to me is much more political and sort of Kafkaesque for people old enough like you and I are to know what that means, where there's very little common sense to our system, where people aren't protected equally. And what we have here is a situation that, again, depends on your politics. So if you live in France and you're Catherine Deneuve and you think Me Too has gone way too far to the idea that accusations are proof, that all people of one gender should be believed at the exclusion of all people of another gender, i.e. accused, being disbelieved, then you're going to have no problem with what the court has done here, which is essentially said, if a man thinks he's being defamed, put on a list without having done anything, no proof, no nothing, but it ruins his life, it gets him fired, he wants to sue to be made whole, but he doesn't want to have his name be further published because his new boss, if they hear he's mixed up in this, rather than saying, good for you, stand your ground, go on principle that nobody should be falsely accused ever, we're proud of you, his position is, well, if my name comes out, I'm going to be fired simply because I'm on a list that I can't defend myself against. The judge says, no, you've got to reveal your name, even knowing that you're going to be further smeared and tarred and feathered, because defamation law is not that big a deal or important. And just so you know, full disclosure as a criminal defense lawyer, we're always going to protect the names of accusers. And to me, that has been a problem that I've observed for 16, 17 years, not just because of the courts, Elias, but because we know, whether it be Gomeshi or the hundreds of other acquittals that happen in Canada every week or every month, once you're accused, even if you're acquitted, even if your accuser is shown to be a liar, even if there's no evidence that you didn't do it, even if you're not convicted, the scarlet letter, the Google search of your name, never goes away. We live in a society, sadly, Elias, that once you're accused and your cover or mugshots on the cover of your local Montreal paper, if you're acquitted, it doesn't even go into page 32 in the bottom left, and nobody ever resets you to where you were when you began. And this story has that Kafkaesque feel to it, where this guy can't even seek justice without having his name be smeared again. And I think it's a very, very bizarre and sort of speak out of both sides of your mouth decision.
With Ari Goldkind, criminal lawyer and legal expert. Ari, on this story, the people that were behind this Facebook page, one of them spoke to the media, and we know her name because she spoke to a newspaper here in Montreal. One has also tried to stay anonymous as well. Where does that? Where do you stand on that?
So that's what makes it more interesting, is because people who come forward on the side of the list, the makers of the list, the accusers, they're always going to be held to a much lesser standard. They're going to be believed. They're going to often be celebrated. They're not going to be shamed. Not that a victim should ever be shamed, but we're talking about people who have simply accused. We're not talking a jury verdict. We're not talking a judge verdict. It's no different than me right now creating a list, and I'm being serious about this, and saying Elias Makos is thought to be an X, you can think of all the words that a public figure like you could be smeared with. And for your listeners who think, well, that would never happen to me, imagine if right now I anonymously created a list in Montreal, I found out who 4 of your listeners were, and I created a list that said 4 of them are thought to be pedophiles or worse. Now, all it would take is the accusation, and then they can't undo it. So when people come forward, and the criminal justice system or the civil justice system, which we're talking about here, sort of doesn't look at things equally, or you'll notice in one of the articles, it said that somebody who had come forward said her healing process would be interfered with. Her healing process would be interfered with if her name was released. Well, what about somebody's ability to go through life without being scarlet lettered? This is no trial, remember, Elias. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about at the end of a trial where a judge or jury has said somebody is guilty. At that point, Elias, my position totally changes. But you're talking about accusations, and one of the sad things about this all, and this is my sort of more overarching view, is I'd rather live in a society where you and I don't need to care what a decision says in a court, because we live in a society that accusations aren't enough to ruin somebody's life, particularly when it's he said, she said, or she said, she said. If we had a society, Elias, that said, look, somebody's making an accusation, we're going to try it, we're going to test it, but we're not throwing this person out like garbage until a judge or jury hears the evidence, sees the story behind it, sees if there's a child custody dispute, see if there's a bitter divorce, see if somebody's cheating on somebody. Until somebody's convicted or found liable civilly, we're not going to ruin their life. We're not going to fire them. That's the society that would prevent these Kafkaesque judicial decisions from being necessary.
But of course, Ari, it really is all about, and particularly talking about the law, the balance, right? That the weight between both of those things, because you don't want to create a chilling effect where someone doesn't want to come forward, doesn't want to go to the police if they have if genuinely something has happened to them, right?
I completely agree with that. So there should be no chilling effect. That's the term in my business, that you don't want to have genuine, real survivors, victims of sexual assault to come forward. But we are talking about 2 different things here, in fairness. We're talking defamation and being smeared when you might have not done something by people anonymously saying you did and wanting to keep your life going. And we're talking about coming forward to the police. And the good news, just quickly, Elias, for your audience, is police right now, if you go to the police, and this is good news for complainants, not good news for accused people, they're almost always going to charge. Somebody could walk into a police station tonight, and say, Elias did X, your producer did Y, your employer at your station, and that person's going to get charged so long as somebody says something. Now, that concerns me as a criminal defense lawyer, but there's a lot of myths that police will laugh you out of a station or do this or do that. But we have to get to a point, and I think we're going the other way. I don't think we're going the right way, where just because somebody's accused doesn't mean that the general public should think they did it. And the more important point, Elias, is I've been very outspoken that I don't think Twitter should allow anything anonymous. I don't think you should be able to tweet without your name, without all of your identifying features there, because we live in a society that's so toxic, whether it be Facebook with these egg symbols or Twitter where you make up, jeans and boots 622 and you create a smear or rumor and there's no recourse.
Ari?
And that, to me, Elias, is completely wrong.
Ari, we're going to leave it there, but I do agree with you on some of the anonymity on Twitter, causing way more problems than they're worth. Thanks a lot, Ari.
Pleasure, Elias.
Ari Goldkind, criminal lawyer and legal expert.